Robert Hamilton, just for the avoidance of doubt, before we start, we're not brothers. If anybody's looking at us and they see two balding, middle-aged, bespectacled, AirPod wearing dudes, we're definitely not brothers. We are from the same part of the world, but I can confirm that we're from different mothers, right?
Yeah, definitely. No bad thing, but definitely different mothers.
Yeah. Well, look, you're so welcome, and it's great to catch up. And I suppose the first thing I'll say is that this episode of Just Getting Started probably needs to come with a health warning. I think people need to strap in because it's going to be a wild ride for the next hour or so. So it's great to see you and great to catch up with you.
Yeah,
how's life in Dubai?
It's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah, I mean, yesterday was still 42 degrees. But there's a difference in the atmospheric temperature now, so you can actually feel the temperature starting to come down, and the nighttime temperatures are already dropping to 26.
Oh wow! So let me get my head around this. And for anybody listening in the States or outside of the metric zone, we're 42 degrees Celsius. So that's 100, is it? Fahrenheit? Something like that?
110 or something, is it?
110, is it? Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Wow.
Round about that, I think. Yeah.
So what is it? What kind of heat is it? Is it real dry?
Very, very dry. Yeah. So what we didn't get this year, which we got last year, was this humidity that sits in the sky. It's quite an odd experience to look at. Very similar to the picture on my backdrop, actually, where we've got the separation between the sunset and the sky itself. The humidity comes down during the day and it sits almost in a bow line right across the middle of the sky, and it's really, really intense. And if you walk around the corner into the wind, you feel like there's a hairdryer in your face. Right. So we're kind of, that's not happening anymore. That's kind of now starting to come away. It's still warm, but not to the same degree.
Yeah. So 42 degrees on the 6th of October. What's it like in the middle of summer then? What temperature does it get up to?
We got to 51.6 this year.
Oh my goodness me. 50. What's that like?
Yeah, that was different. That was a kind of experience altogether. Yeah, we didn't really go that day.
Yeah.
I think that, recently we've had some family members coming over from Europe, and they're, we don't want to go to the malls because everything's mall related here, and some of the malls are just phenomenal in terms of their size and capacity. So to give you an example, last year there was 107,000 people visited Dubai Mall.
Wow.
A huge 107,000 people.
In one
sorry,
day?
107,000. 107,000. Yeah, 107,000 people were visiting that mall daily or thereabouts.
Every day.
But the size of it is insane, because for most malls that I'm used to, you'd be lucky if you could get 3,000 or 4,000 people into them, 5,000 people in. This is just on another level. It's 3 floors high, and they've got a fashion accessory area, which is in itself, it's a mall. And then they've got Chinatown, which is another mall. Then they've got an ice rink, which is another mall. And it's all within one building. So when it gets to kind of, even at this temperature at 42 degrees, you have to go into the malls, because that's what allows you to get the reprieve from the heat. So most of the summer, you end up spending the time either going from your property into a mall, or you're going to a workplace.
Yeah. All I can think of is the power bill. So is a lot of the power solar generated, or how does that work?
There is a lot of solar generated power here. Obviously, the advantage of having sun every day. But it's normal electricity that you have in the most part. So I stay 40 kilometers outside of Dubai itself, up in the desert, and that's just normal electricity that's run through here from the generator, or the pump service building that sits on the outside. So they'll call in the cooling stations. So that's where your aircon comes from and your electricity comes from, and they're as big as a small town.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them
And
are.
so I'm just trying to picture this. So 40 kilometers outside of Dubai, is it in a suburban area that you live in? I mean, is it terraced housing? Is it all estate living? Is it gated communities? What does the housing look like 40 kilometers outside of Dubai, and how accessible is the city?
Um, so if I start with accessibility, we've got the main road that runs away into Dubai, which runs right down. And if the way that I vision the city is that we've got the Burj Khalifa on the right hand side of the estate, and we have the Burj Al Arab on the left hand side of our estate. So the Al Ain Dubai Road is on the right hand side, which will take me straight to the Burj Khalifa.
So that
And
they're the two largest hotels, the two tallest hotels in the world, are they?
so the Burj Khalifa is the biggest, tallest building in the world. And the Burj Al Arab is the most expensive 7-star hotel in the world.
Wow.
So they run down almost parallel to each other. The roads run parallel. So that would take me on a morning. That could take me 40 minutes to get down into the city. Because once you hit the motorway, the freeways, they just call them by their names here. So we don't. They're back home when they call it a motorway. So that's the Al Ain Dubai Road, and that runs at anything from 140 kilometers to 120 kilometers an hour.
Right.
So you're moving pretty fast. That's upwards of 90 miles an hour when you're up at 140, and most people are doing that kind of speed. So it's fast-moving traffic. Then right across the front of Dubai, so that would run from the Burj Khalifa all the way across, right out towards heading up to Abu Dhabi, is the E11, which is the Sheikh Zayed. That is upwards of 18 to 20 lanes in some places. So 10 lanes on one side and 10 lanes of traffic on the other side.
Goodness me.
And then we have we've got the 311 and the 611, which run perpendicular to the Al Ain Dubai Road and the Saquim Road and Al Qudra Road, which runs on the Burj Al Arab side. So we've got massive roads, so there's a lot of traffic. Whereas if I stayed in the city, so we've got, to give you an example of finance, so if it takes me 35, 40 minutes to get that distance of 40 kilometers, and that's me almost looking straight onto the the Sheikh Zayed E11, it could take you an hour to travel half the distance across the city.
Yeah.
Just because of volume. Because the
Okay.
traffic volume here is insane. Never seen traffic like it. When there's a proper traffic jam, there's a serious proper traffic jam. And it's not necessarily caused by accidents, it's just volume.
Just volume, yeah. And just going back to the housing then and the burbs, what does that look like?
Yeah. So the housing, so I currently reside in a 3-bedroom villa on 3 floors with a roof terrace. 2,100 square foot of space. So really nice. We've got a over canopy parking bay as well, with several balconies that come off. Within that area in the compound, so what they've tried, which I think is really, really clever within Dubai, is that each cluster area, so this is called Damat Kills 2, that holds everything that you require as a resident. So we've got a clinic, we've got what they call SBS, which is smart police station. So it's all digitized. You've got your supermarkets, you've got cleaners, you've cleaning companies. You can get your nails done, all the kind of women things, and opticians. We've also got quite a lot of free space. So within the cost of your rent, you've got access to a community pool, which is no more than 3 or 4 minutes walk away, which is a 25-metre 4-lane pool. I have another one accessible to me that's about 10 minutes walk away, but I have football fields, tennis courts, cricket fields, paddle courts as well. We've also got a park. I live right next to the park, so there's a 5-kilometre walk that I can do around which holds 2 lagoons, one of which is designated towards children. And they've got a cinema screen, so they've got outdoor cinema screens. That's all included within the cost. We have gyms. So it means then that when you come home at night, you're not having to think, oh, I forgot something. I need to then travel, because 40 kilometres away is quite a distance, and there is small cluster residents next to you. But even at that's too far. So they hold everything within that cluster. And here, there's probably about 10,000 properties in and around the area, and they're still building just now. So it's easy to get in and easy to get, maybe not so much first thing in the morning when the schools are transient, but in the afternoon, once the schools are and the kids are picked up, then things start to quieten down a little bit. So it's easily accessible and good to travel.
Self-contained pod style living, and then if you want a day out, you head into the city to the 100 million acre shopping centres.
Yeah, and then you've got, like, not too far from we've got a place called Tata in Jebel Jas, which is quite close to Ras Al Khaimah, and that's you're going up into the hills, and you've actually got proper mountains that you can go and do things. But the other thing that we're actually very close to is a 250-kilometre cycle track. It's purpose-built cycle track that's enclosed just for bikes.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
So
for people thinking about Dubai, the natural thing that we associate with Dubai is weather and heat and shopping centers and so on. Now that you're living there, does Dubai represent something completely different to you? I mean, it represents a new start for you in your life. And we're going to come on to that in a few minutes, but is there anything else that you would now naturally associate with Dubai that you didn't before you started living there?
I was quite fortunate that I managed to come out here on a 5-day tour trip with my partner back in May 23. And Dubai's very, very clever. The structure of how this has been put together and the vision that Al Maktoum had at the time when he was building this was amazing. They contain the tourists within a particular area of how Dubai is structured. So we lived in JVC, Jumeirah Village Circle, or we did the 5-day thing there. There's transport that takes you, so free shuttle bus that will take you to one of the malls, and then the malls are directly associated to the metro lines. So then that metro line runs in line with Sheikh Zayed Road, the full length of it. So that means that you can go and do the tourist things. And you very much, not in a negative way, you very much get sucked into the tourist circle when you first arrive, because it's structured in such a way that that's what happens.
That's very good. Yeah.
Which is amazing to think that they've got such a massive city with so many things to do, and you get to see all the things. So the likes of the Frame, you can travel on the tram, you can go to Burj Khalifa, you can go to Burj Al Arab, you can go down to the marina. Kite Beach, which is quite one of the famous beaches, they've got 24-hour swimming here. You can get to that really easily. So there's really good thought behind accessibility. I arrived here actually just 2 years ago, originally on the 3rd of October at 3 o'clock in the morning. And within 24 hours, I had a car, and I was staying out with the circle. By that time, you're now employed and you're now moving things in a different circle. And I could not believe how amazing Dubai is as a resident. It's so different as a tourist, and it not that as a tourist you're being closed in to be negative, that they just want you to spend money because you can come out of that circle. But the minute that you open up and you can see how the structure of Dubai has been developed, the accessibility to not just the tourist things, but also your own daily living. So what tends to happen is that you then have a focus on, I would like to go and do this today, but you're doing something that's different from a tourist. So you've got that capability of then almost like bypassing the tourist line and going and doing the same thing that the tourists are doing, but in a slightly different way. And it made me feel at home almost immediately.
Yeah, wow. So that's really interesting. So moving one step deeper than the sunshine and the shopping, it's all of a sudden it's got a underneath that veneer, shall we say, it's an amazing residential area and a quite a desirable place to live. That
Yeah.
is
Yes.
huge.
Yeah, it's you know, and obviously I've come in. So the picture that's behind me just now is of Sunset Hotel in Mozambique, and I was working out there before I came out to Dubai, and I really enjoyed that whole experience of being there. And obviously there's always a degree of nervousness, but I love change. I love that challenge of change, and I love the stepping forward into the unknown. I've always seen a door has been opened, and Dubai's given me that opportunity to be constantly open, where it's
Yeah, wow.
pushing forward every single day. There's maybe new experiences. So one of the things is being a resident in Dubai that's quite a bit different than being a tourist. There's so many bits of paper that you require, because you need your visa, you need an Emirates ID, you need your residency visa. And that's just the start of it, because then you need to think about converting your driver's license. Then you get into DEWA, which is your Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. So you need to then get on that cycle, but you can only get on that cycle if you've got your Jari, which is your kind of council tax that a lot of people, or your service charges that people might pay. But then you need a property to be able to get access to all that thing. And it's not challenging. The first time you do it, it's quite a lot of energy that you're putting into something, and you're not really seeing things happening quickly, because Dubai's got a pace, and it'll work at its pace. And it might take, so, if it's somebody says, I'll do it today, then it'll probably be done tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
that's no bad thing.
Yeah, I love the way that you said that you love change, you embrace change, because that's quite different to the majority of the population, and it's actually the embodiment of this podcast and what this is all about. So it's people who embrace change, who have loads of energy, who feel like they've got much more to offer, who are adventurous in spirit, and to quote the great Clint Eastwood, that don't let the old man in. So there's no chance. There's no chance of you doing that.
No
But
chance.
yeah, I need to go back to the start, because this, as I said at the top, is a rip roaring yarn. So you haven't always been in Dubai. Where did it all kick off? And give me the highlights of your former life.
So I originally, in my 20s, I was doing triathlon. So that was back in the mid 90s, or early 90s. And I ended up as a lifeguard, and the resident swimming teacher asked me to get involved in teaching the children how to swim. And I had
This is
no
in
clue what
Glasgow,
to
right?
do. Yeah, this, well, Cumbernauld, which is where I grew up. It's one of the new towns that were built for the overspill of Glasgow, which is about 13 miles outside central Glasgow. And that kind of, I don't know anything about teaching swimming. And I was quite fortunate in that I met a child through the course of the kind of 6 or 8 weeks that I was involved in it, who had multiple disabilities, and really quite an unwell child. And the thing that inspired me at that point was when he got in the water, he was exactly the same as everybody else.
Oh,
He was just as timid as everybody else, regardless of his disability. So he had brittle bone, he had a breathing issue, and there was a few other things that were. He had a form of dwarfism as well. I'm hoping he's still alive, but I'm not sure that he will be at this time. But I'm hoping he is, because he inspired me to be who I am now. And when I watched him enter the water, which was 10 minutes after everybody else in the class, because of his brittle bone, he was the same as everybody else. And I actually got that child to travel in the water, the same as every other child that was in his class. And that
okay.
elevated me to then think, I need to be a swimming instructor. So I pursued that for 30 years. And I've been fortunate enough to I've been in several parts of the world, coached some phenomenal people. Got my first, I got my first gold medal. I had a swimmer who was originally from the States, had come in, joined the swim team in Glasgow, and at 9 years old, he got his first gold medal in 50 freestyle. And again, that was another inspiration, because I must be able to do more than this. To then getting into coaching, because I started teaching swimming, but I went into.
Can I just stop you there for a second, Robert?
Yeah.
That whole experience that you've just described is very touching, but it evokes emotion in you by the sense of it. It's a very primal thing that happens to you there when you're describing it, is it?
Massively, because I left school at 15 with 0 qualifications. And I think I found myself at that period of time in my life, I found who I was and what I was capable of achieving, not for me, but for other people. So that meant I had a career that I could then start to pursue. And I remember
all of a sudden it wasn't about you anymore, it was about other people.
Yeah, it was other people. But obviously I got a satisfaction in other people achieving their potential skill or capabilities, or whatever they wanted to achieve. But I remember my father saying, "Why don't you get a real job?" And at the time, I thought I had a real job, so I didn't think anything of it. My father was a graphic designer in his day, so I would go and buy books, I would watch videos, I would go and listen to other coaches, and I would just listen to the way that they spoke, the technical knowledge that they had, the presentation of who they were while they were on poolside. I did an HNC and HND. I ended up in uni doing a lot of psychology, and just understanding how people learn, what they learn from, how they engage, what they get from that engagement, and what could I do to try and improve that. And I get so much satisfaction out of it. I pursued it up until a few years ago, and the only reason I gave up was because I felt as if I'd done enough within the industry and wanted to explore other areas. So what did I achieve within that time? Well, I set up a local authority swim school, and at the time when I picked it up, that went from 183 to 670 in 2 years. That's children, from 2 instructors to 12 instructors. I then departed that job and set up my own business, and that had 856 children a week, with 5 staff in the office and 19 staff teaching in 25 venues across Scotland. But during the course of that, I always think there's more to what we can achieve, rather than thinking I've done and this is what I need to do for the rest of my life. I then set up a open water training and events company. So then looking into things like taking people across the Irish Sea, the English Channel, Loch Lomond, Loch Ness, Loch Awe, Loch Moura, which are all the big lochs in Scotland. And actually giving people an opportunity to come and train in areas that they would never have thought of before. So we set up that training business. And then in addition to that, I'm thinking, well, there must be more that I can offer. Could I help the likes of Nicky here? Could I help him understand more about this environment? Could I train him to either assist me in the delivery of, or supporting me in the management of? So I then set up a training business. So I had all 3 businesses running at exactly the same time. That's why there were so many staff in the office managing that process.
Yeah. Were you in control at that time? So how, as the leader of that business or those businesses, how did you feel? Were you overwhelmed? Were you mad, flat tack, or did you have your systems and processes set up in such a way that you were able to remain somewhat hands off?
So each business was maybe 3 or 4 years apart from each other in terms of the development and its infrastructure. So that gave me time to be able to put things into place. So I had somebody in the office who was managing the office and managing the swim school. So I was managing the events because it was very new, whereas the person who was managing the office came from a swimming background, so they understood the structure of that program. I then focused on the training of and the supporting of the candidates who wanted to go, or the swimmers that wanted to go and do events, etc., and doing long distance events as well. So it kind of gave me enough space to be able to oversee what was happening within the swim school, but managing the two other businesses. And even at the training business, the girls or the women in the office would take the bookings, and then I would just go and attend the course. So there was a nice balance across all three of them. And I really enjoyed it, and I thrived very similar to yourself. If you're up early in the morning, I would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would work to 10 o'clock at night. But I think there's only so long you can do that, and eventually you come to your senses that, you know, life is enjoyable, life is good. I didn't ever once go, I don't want to get up this morning. I couldn't wait to get up the next day. I wanted to get up the next day.
Yeah, I've just spotted something, and I just want to run it past you. So if I go back 10 minutes in the conversation to when you were discussing the young boy with brittle bones and the amount of emotion that evoked and the amount of satisfaction and fulfillment that brought you in your career. So contrast that moment with 10 minutes later, you were talking about systems and processes in your business, and you all of a sudden became a serious businessman, right?
Yeah.
So how did you marry those two things, and were you still getting a deal of satisfaction out of running your business as similar to what you had when you brought that young boy ahead, or how do you contrast those?
That's really, you know, nobody's ever asked me that before, but I guess I've never really put the two things together that quickly. Do you know what? I've only just got a passion. I don't have anything else. I have a passion, and I was fortunate enough to be in the right space at the right time to make some money at it. So my passion for running a business was the same passion that I had for teaching that child. But what I did do was I taught others to be able to do what I did, to have the same passion for the teaching of swimming that I had. And if I got one person to do that, then to me, I was satisfied that within my business, I created that pathway.
Yeah. So this passion that you talk about, and I get it, I understand it, right? Is that type of passion innate in a human being, or is that something that you fostered over a period of time, or was there an event or a childhood incident that kind of sparked off this passion, or is it just you as an individual?
I think everybody has something within themselves that helps create a passion. I think sometimes in life, we get bogged down by the systems that have been put in place for us. And I was very fortunate to be in that position, even in the very, very early stages, because I worked with one of the councils, and I worked there for about 4 years. We want you to teach this. Amazing, right? Okay, you know, oh, I'll go and teach that. But I created my own way of teaching that delivery. In the 4 years I was with that council, there was one time that one person turned up to come and watch me. And he said, "Oh, you're not so-and-so," which was a girl's name. And I went, "Definitely not today. Maybe at the weekend, but definitely not today." And he stayed for no more than 3 or 4 minutes, and we went away. And all the time that I was teaching, I never ever had anybody come and observe me. So and I guess that's where that the experimental challenge of doing new things and being involved in new things is. I've always had that chance, but I've always put myself into that position to have that opportunity. And when I look back and I think to myself, was there a time? Well, I think that child that I had was the start of that passion. Because coming out of school at 15, not having any formal qualifications, I'm a dyslexic. I'm profoundly dyslexic, which didn't help with my education. But you know, unless I told you, you would never know.
Yeah. I also wonder, you know, this lust for life and lust for adventure and change seeking and so on. Sometimes I wonder, is it because we want to get away from, say, growing up, and I'm not saying this was the case in your case, but is it because we want to get away from a poverty-stricken childhood or a difficult situation when we were growing up, or is it because we simply feel that we've got more to offer and we want to grab everything that life has to give us? So it's a kind of a going to motivation rather than going away from motivation.
Yeah, I'm in my 50s. I didn't have a terrible upbringing. My parents had what they had. They offered what they could give us. I can't say I had a bad upbringing in it. It's unfortunate some people maybe be in a slightly different situation. But this is just a passion for life. It's simply that I have an ability to be able to give something to somebody. And if I can do that in a way that they remember, even if there's only one small part of it, then I'll do whatever I can. And if that means that I need to change where I am, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how I deliver that content, then I'll do whatever I have to do within that cycle to try and have that person gain something from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of passion, it's probably a timely moment now to bring in another passion in your life, which is coffee. So
Now we're talking.
where did that all start, and where did it lead you to?
It started back in the UK a good number of years ago, and I bought a very expensive bean to cup machine, and it broke. And when I went to find out how much it would cost to repair it, it was almost the same cost of the machine. So I kind of put the machine in the bin, or at least in the skip anyway, because it was maybe too big for the bin.
Why did you buy the machine in the first place?
Convenience.
Okay.
Just convenience. And
did you realize that you had a coffee problem at that time, or
Oh yeah. I realized that I had a coffee problem back in 2000 when I was drinking 15 cups of Nescafe a day. And that was pretty intense. And I guess the thing that kind of came out of that period, because my mother was still alive at the time, she had not heart condition, but she would feel not great after having drink a cup of coffee, and that would be freeze-dried coffee. So that's where I went into buying a machine, because I'm thinking this is easier. It's maybe not as cheap, but it'll, if you look at the time scale that you're likely to have a machine for over the cost of what it would cost you to go and buy into the supermarket coffee, would it balance itself out over time? And I think it does. And now it definitely does, because of where I am now with coffee. So that machine went in the skip. I thought there must be more to coffee than this. And that's how I explored swimming. There must be more to the mechanics of movement than there is currently as it stands. And I still believe that there is a lot more to be given within the sport of swimming. So then I actually went to one of the superstores that we have in the city, up onto the rooftop floor, and I went in and I bought a kettle. I didn't even know what I was buying, but I bought a kettle, and I believe it was a gooseneck kettle that I bought at the time. Now I do know what it's called. And I bought a grinder, and I think it was one of the ones that you could plug in, and you would press down on it, and you get variable structure of bean grinds, not necessarily anything consistent. And the thing that I can't remember how I found it, but I found Chemex. And I thought, that's amazing. So that was obviously developed in the 50s. I think he was German, if I remember right. That looks amazing. I need to try it. And it was awful. The coffee was just not good at all. But
let's just keep the non-coffee aficionados in mind. So just talk about Chemex, its basic structure, and what does it do?
It almost looks like an hourglass. The thing that I found fascinating by it was the filter papers are 3 layers over one, and you put the 3 layers over where you would pour the coffee out of, and that was your air channel that would allow the beans to obviously, when you were pouring water over, allow to move. And it's glass, so you get there's two types. There's a kind of cheaper version which I bought, which I think at the time was about £45, and then there's a more expensive one which is I think about £100, maybe £120. So I thought I'll buy the cheap one because I don't know whether I'm going to get into this or not. And I bought all that. I bought all the filters with it as well. And I experimented, and oh man, never tasted coffee so bad. But then the passion in me was, well, I need to find a way of getting this coffee to taste good. So how do I do that? And so then I then went to my first proper keep warm or keep static temperature gooseneck kettle, because I thought that's maybe where the problem was, because I was reading up and doing YouTube and things like that, and they were saying that you need temperature to be able to make sure it's consistent, so that helps the absorption of the water into the beans and all the flavour notes come out. That still wasn't that great. And then I moved to a new grinder, and that made a massive difference. So I went from this £40 grinder to 500, and I went to.
You got it bad now at this stage.
It got sucked in right away.
Yeah.
But then I went to it's still freely available in the market now, niche, and I would definitely say niche as a grinder, but you have to be able to be patient with it, because primarily it's used for espresso, but I managed to grind very coarsely on it and be able to get enough coarseness that you can have a really nice tasting Chemex.
Yeah, I think at this point it's probably worth getting into a little bit of education around grind size, right? Because for the uninitiated, a coffee grind is a coffee grind. So why does the size of the grind make such a difference to the taste of the coffee?
So I would say that the grind size, there's a few things that I would talk about before I even get to grind size. And the first one would be understanding what coffee you're buying. And what I mean by that is, so at the moment in my storage unit that I have a coffee, I've got Ethiopian and I've got Colombian. So this morning I've had 3 coffees. So I look at the density of the coffee bean. How do I identify the density of the coffee bean? Is taking a bean out, turn it upside down and pressing down on it. And if it breaks, it's got lower levels of density. But it tends to be a slightly larger bean. And if you have a smaller bean, like an Ethiopian bean, it tends to be much smaller and more dense. And if you do that, you can't crack it in the same way. In addition to the grind size, I would then also talk about the temperature, because the temperature makes a difference before you even touch the grind size. And so I tend to, depending on, so if with the coffee that I just got, it's probably about 2 weeks old, because coffee availability here is just insanely easy to get your hands on. So we tend to buy straight from the roaster. So for a Colombian, for example, I might brew that somewhere between 88 and 90 degrees. Ethiopian, I'm going to grind at 92. The next thing that I look at is the agitation levels. So if I've got something at 92 degrees, because of the high density, what I would want to do is create greater agitation. So what you might see somebody doing a V60 is that they do a pour, and they might do 45 grams, for example, just to bloom the beans, and then you see them swirling it around, and that's just helping with the agitation. I used to do a lot of agitation in the past, and I would get some really good results, and I would get some really poor results in terms of flavour notes. And what I'm now using today is SD1 and SD2, which is an Indonesian. In fact, if I just show you, You might
Yeah.
be able to see that. You can
Just
see
bring it into the
this is
center a little bit.
SD2.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you
this
go.
is SD2. SD1's half the size of this. So this is relatively easy to make a coffee. Now, if it's an Ethiopian, because of the density, then I would want to have a higher pour rate height, because that helps with the agitation, which then pulls the coffee flavors out. If I've got a Colombian, I'm not so interested in that because the beans are bigger and it's easier for the water to penetrate the grounds, which allows it to pour through in an easier time scale. Now, personally now, I don't watch time. I only watch the drip rate of the drip coming out the filter, which is easily seen because I've got a clear carafe. And once I start seeing that starting to slow down, then that will help towards me thinking that I need to put more water in. So
Yeah.
an Ethiopian, I would consider maybe I would do a boil. I generally do a boil for about 30 seconds. Sometimes I might go to 45, but most of the time I'll go 30. And then I'll do 3 other pours. And within that time, then that should give me, or within that rate, that gives me an opportunity to get really nice flavour notes. And I chase the flavour notes. And how that works in terms of grind size. So I tend to grind very coarse. I was at a very, very prominent, probably one of the leading roasters in Dubai, stroke Sharjah, across the UAE. Very, very high-end coffee that they tend to bring. They would do the best of Panama. I was at the weekend, I was at the best of Rwandan, and they'll do a free cupping session. So I was at a home brewers program a few weeks ago, and I made a coffee, and even the guys who work in there went, wow. And this, let me see your grind side. And I went, how did you get that? Because I use Commandante C60, the Barracuda, and I am on grind size 36, 38. And I find that helps me extract the real content of the flavors. And
Yeah.
I get to taste the flavors. But my ratio, because a lot of people talk about ratios, is 1 to 10.
1 to 10. Okay, I was going to ask you
So
that.
I
Yeah.
do 12 grams. I might go up to about 125 in terms of grams of water.
Yeah, so your 12 grams in relative terms is quite small, right? Because most people would go for that 16 to 18 gram.
Yeah, and the thing that I find, and obviously I've experimented, and I've got an auctionery where I can experiment, and I've been very fortunate in Dubai to meet some amazing people. I'm actually going to mention her because she's been quite influential in the way that I move forward. Have moved forward is Miriam Erin, and she's actually just won the Spirit and Good Coffee last week, and she's a UAE barista champion. I don't know how many years in a row, 5 years in a row. So I went up against a Chemex brewing battle with Miriam. And what I found was that if I go down the route of, and she's a fully trained barista, I find that the bitterness comes through the minute I go beyond 15 grams of beans.
Okay. Okay.
And
Right.
the reason that I find that is it's the time scale it takes for the water to filter through.
So it's the brew time, yeah.
It's the actual completion of brew time. So I was talking to a guy at the Rwandan, the best of Rwandan, on Saturday, and he said, all I get is bitterness. So the first thing I said to him was, that might be a grind size, but it could be water. And the water in Dubai is quite unique in terms of its structure. So the bottled water, you can't really, it's desalinated water that comes through the tap, so you need to buy bottled water. So they give you quite a lot of the stats that you don't necessarily see in the UK in the same way. But you've got your potassium, your nitrates, your sodium levels. So I'm looking for something that's got a relatively balanced pH balance. So I use Alane 0, and then I put a very small dash of Alane in the water, and then the structure of that helps towards bringing the flavour notes out. And again, that's coming from the likes of Miriam, was just balancing out. But by putting, to me, if I put in 15 to 18 or even 20 grams, which is sometimes what baristas will do, that time, like the guy that I spoke to the weekend, he's 4 minutes to 5 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
And I think that helps bring out and extracts all the acidity in the coffee.
Mm.
And as a direct result, then you're losing you're losing the texture, but you're also losing the flavour notes within the coffee. If I brew 12 grams, I might see 2 minutes 10 max. Depending on if it's Ethiopian, I'll probably see 2:10. If it's Colombian, I might not even get to 2 minutes.
Okay. Now we are talking about a very specific way of brewing coffee, obviously, right? So if we bring it back up to the top and say, right, a lot of people listening to this podcast will be very familiar with the espresso machine that you get in a coffee house or whatever, or even a home espresso machine. You're talking about the pour over method. So in your estimation and your experience, the quality of the coffee that you get from pour over is equal to espresso, it far exceeds espresso, or how do you compare the two?
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I don't tend to drink espresso. I get offered espresso quite frequently, but I don't tend to drink it. But what they're experimenting here in Dubai just now, and Saturday was a good example. I got offered an espresso because the guy that's making it is a barista, and they're now starting to use the same beans that I would use for filter in an espresso. So you're actually getting amazing flavour notes out of an espresso that my understanding of espresso is it tends to be something like a Brazilian bean, hazelnut, chocolate, cacao, and maybe a few other things, almonds, for example. These guys are brewing, are pulling espressos with Ethiopian coffee, and the flavour notes are insane. It's really, really clever. I don't know how they do it. I've never really got into the whole espresso scene, because I love what I do is a therapy to me rather than I need a shot of coffee. So I enjoy that experience of the therapy of going through what I do. I've got a hand grinder. I'm enjoying, even to the point of wetting the filter. I enjoy that process.
Yeah, to remove any paper taste and so on.
But I guess the thing that, from what I'm picking up on what you're asking, Nicky, is what is the quality of coffee? The quality of coffee in Dubai is amazing. It is through the roof. I remember when I was leaving Glasgow, and I would go, I met a really, really nice guy called James Aiken, who owned a coffee shop stroke business. I remember him and Ryan, who were the two guys that worked in the coffee shop, and they said, if you need coffee, here's my email and here's my mobile and there's my Instagram. And I've never contacted them since. Right. James was, and really, two really nice guys, and I had a lot of time for these two guys. And they were bringing in some really nice coffee, and they were having an opportunity to bring coffee in. You probably wouldn't have got in Glasgow elsewhere, simply because they were installing coffee machines into new coffee shops. So they were getting coffees, whether that was complimentary or whether it was purchased, we were really bothered. But the fact is that they were getting coffee. So we were getting coffee from the Iowa Sky. We were getting coffee from Copenhagen. We would get coffee from London. And again, just nice wide expanse of flavour notes. When I came here, I could not believe we've got the top coffees in the world that come in. Quite literally, we have. So I've been quite fortunate to be the best of Panama twice, Esmeralda once, and that's the top coffees. And to give you an example of the quality and the cost of the best of Panama, there was one coffee shop that opened up in August of this year. They spent $605,000 buying the best coffee in the world.
Oh, wow.
They bought batches from the Best of Panama and Esmeralda.
Okay, wow. We're onto a different plane now, but I want to go back a step, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
And we're going to transport ourselves from Glasgow all the way to Dubai. In fact, there might have been a quick stop in Mozambique before that. So can you talk us about the transition then, how this opportunity or these opportunities came about, and what did they look like for you?
So I worked with, again, another opportunity. I see things, maybe I listen to a lot of conversations. I would see things either on Facebook, Instagram, wherever they happen to be. There was an opportunity to come up where I was the vice president of a charity, and that charity provided swimming instructors and guidance for underprivileged, underdeveloped countries. And I was currently delivering a first aid course. And I got asked if I knew somebody who would be interested in going to Mozambique, and I said me.
That didn't take long.
It took seconds. So I said, "Can you carry on with that CPR? I'm just doing this."
I'm off to Mozambique.
And then like 4 or 6 weeks later, I'm in Mozambique. Again, just looking at the changes and the challenges and the opportunities that come about. And I've got an amazing relationship with the woman that owns that charity. She's actually from Bristol, and it's to do with marine conservation. But it's part of her legacy program. She's got an amazing setup. So she's actually got this marine conservation that basically looks after the coastline in Inland, which is about 7.5 hours in a taxi from Maputo, because I've done it. Quite close to Villancunos. So that program has then filtered back onto land, where she's educating the locals on how to look after the fishing side of things and how to manage the fishing. But then that extends even further, and that what she's now got is a program to teach the children, and there's a select number of children that are involved in this program, but she funds the children to go to school. And then that creates ocean champions. So the ocean champions might be directly associated to the child, or they're within the community, that then allows them to become dive masters, swimming instructors, and lifeguards. And then what comes out of that is that we then teach the children how to swim. So I've been out there, and we've taught 8 people, male and females, to become swimming instructors and lifeguards. And the first 5 females ever in the history of the local area really to come out of their house and learn and experience what it's like to do a job that helps the community, because quite a lot of the local Mozambicans, the women would stay in the house and she would look after the property and raise the children, etc. And to get these 5 women on 2 courses, and then they're now teaching swimming. And within 4 weeks, we've taught 2,000 children.
Yeah, I think so. I've never been to Mozambique. However, I've read a lot about it, and one of the best books I've ever read was about a family who bought a crapped out boat back in the 70s, and they wanted to head up to the northern hemisphere. So they bought this boat, did it up, and they took the family. The kids were like 12, 7, and 2 on the boat, and they sailed it all down around the Horn of Africa back up to the UK.
Oh, wow.
and they set up a new life in the UK. But that gave me a real interest and a real love for all things Mozambican. And I think what people don't realize is that you're talking about water safety and so on in Mozambique, but Mozambique has got some of the most amazing beaches in the whole world, right?
Oh, stunning. Absolutely breathtaking. I wish I could show you a picture of the, but there's some really, really nice areas. And I remember arriving, and I arrived about 9 o'clock at night, and they've got 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night, and it's like somebody turns a light out and that's it. It goes black, and then it goes really, really black, because there's no ambient lighting or anything because of where we are. And I could hear the ocean, but I couldn't see it.
Wow.
It was so powerful as well. And then I woke up the next morning, and I remember Francesca, who owns the charity, she said, Robert, come over here, come here. So standing on this balcony, looking out into the Indian Ocean, and she went, look, can you see that? And I went, what is that? Oh, that's the humpback whales breaching.
Ah, stop it. Stop it.
Oh, and then there was so then you've got the mothers doing, teaching the babies how to do fin slapping and all sorts. The outlook, and so we're sitting on a porch. It's maybe 20 feet up, maybe 30 feet up off the sand on a dune, looking straight across the Indian Ocean. Insane, and it's crystal blue waters. It's quite a rough area because there's two tidal movements coming in. So unfortunately, there's been quite a few people, and this is why they wanted to set the program up, because there's been quite a few people unfortunately lost their life because of the cross. So there's a tide that comes from this way, and there's a tide that comes in from that way, and they get caught in the middle of it, unfortunately. So that's where that educational program came from. So I've done that in Mozambique, and I've done exactly the same in Peru.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was in Peru last January, doing exactly the same program for them. And I hope that we can get back out and just continue that program. I've been asked to go back out to Mozambique now, and I hope that we can open up that door. And this is now about formulating the education program that we've given the instructors so that they can build on capacity of their skill set, and then hopefully sending that back on. And if we get the chance to go back out, we're going to do some sea swimming as well, so that they understand how to get in and out of the water. And that's that part of my life, doing that, and that's my charitable work back to the communities.
Yeah, I can't help but ask you about the coffee scene in Mozambique and Peru, and I have no doubt that you experienced that or investigated that to its fullest.
Definitely. So there's a place just about, I think it's about an hour to an hour and 20 north of us in Tofu, and you can actually buy really, really nice coffee out there, and it was relatively cheap. It was like $5 for a bag, which is pretty
Was it
incredible. It was Mozambique coffee.
Okay.
Really, really nice coffee. Yeah. So obviously, because the residents that we were living in were, in its form, very primitive. So half the building is brick, and the other half, the building and the rooftop, is made out of palm trees. So we've got a kind of makeshift kind of stove. So we had a mocha pot. That was how we made coffee over there. And it was nice, and it was really nice, actually. It was nice to experience a different type of coffee. And that was somebody that came from Spain that made Mozambique and coffee in Mozambique for a Scottish person.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
just a quick question on food. So I'm thinking there's a lot of fish, is there, or what would the typical foods be in Mozambique?
It's actually not fish. It's actually plant life.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very similar to the Africans eat a plant called yam, which sits on the potato line. And then they also eat, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, it's really, really nice, actually. It's like a dark green leaf, and then they pound that down, and that gets turned into a paste, and then in turn, then they would eat that.
Okay, right.
There is some fish, but it tends to be more plant-based foods.
Yeah. And in Peru now, that's a totally different coffee scene, is it?
Completely different. I was really fortunate that I ended up in Huanchaco, which is one of the top 10 surfing areas in the world. So we had quite a good coffee scene out there, and there was a number of cafes that were in that area. For me, the coffee was quite dark roasted, so it tended to be more sitting on the kind of Americano side or the espresso side. So some really nice flavour notes, but you had to kind of pick where you went to. There was one kind of very narrow, almost the same size as a bus shelter, coffee shop, and that guy was amazing. He was really, really good at coffee. But it's like everywhere you go somewhere, you'll get the commercial-based coffee machines, and then you'll get somebody that's very passionate. And like everything, maybe not so much in Dubai, but you have to go and source where you're buying your coffee to get the best coffee. So it maybe took
Yeah.
a few days for me to find that guy, but then that was my daily trip down there, and that
Yeah.
was less than 50 pence.
Oh wow. Yeah. So you would describe the coffee scene as emerging, or you call it vibrant, or how would you describe the coffee
I
culture
would
there?
say in Peru it was definitely vibrant because there was a lot of different types of coffees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was nice to see, and every coffee shop had their own kind of way that they did things. But certainly that individual that had that coffee shop was definitely pushing things forward, because you can see he was doing that kind of experimental, come and taste this coffee. He would stand outside the shop and get you to come in and try and
Nice.
pull people in. So yeah, I think there's definitely a vibrance about where that was. In
Yeah.
terms of Mozambique, it was probably a bit more challenging, simply because we were so far away from everything. So they call it the Red Road, which is in a pickup truck, that was 45 minutes to get onto the main road. That's how remote we were.
Yes.
And that was in a 4x4. So I would
Yeah.
say
So it's
that
pretty
was
remote.
very, very basic in terms of its offerings.
Yeah. So we're winging our way now to Dubai. How on earth did that happen?
Again, another opportunity. When I was part of the charity in the UK, there happened to be somebody who was also part of the charity who was involved in the selection process of the NGOs to go and work within other countries. And I met up with them to have a coffee, and one thing led to another, was offered the job.
And what is the job? Sorry.
So that job's different from the one that I'm in currently now. So now I currently hold 4 jobs. My main job is an aquatic health and safety auditor,
Hmm.
business development manager, training development manager, and operations manager.
Working under the auspices of the city council, is it?
No, this is a private entity, and so most of our job, if you looked at our website, most of our job is around training lifeguards out here, because
Okay.
everybody needs to be trained as lifeguards. So, for example, this week we've got 44 people that are getting trained up as lifeguards.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll
And
be up with,
you were telling me that the part of each enclave or mini community, if you like, there are several pools, right? So this is a huge part of life here in Dubai.
yeah. The government are very strict, and rightly so, on what requirements have to be in place for somebody to open up a pool. So, for example, where we stay just now, we have 17 to 19 pools, all approximately 25 metres within so many of the clusters, and then we've got the community access one as well. So they all need the minimum of 1 lifeguard.
Okay.
So the industry is massive over here. So that means every cluster compound, if you like, has got exactly the same. And depending on the government's requirements, so they've just released a new document to say that if you've got a pool that's 25 metres by 12.5 metres, you need this number of lifeguards to look after the pool. So they're now being very strict on the number of people that can manage a pool at any one time.
Yeah, so if I think about the lifeguarding scene here in Ireland and the UK, shall we say, it's more of a summertime, almost like a hobby, but it's a bona fide full-on industry in Dubai. That's the difference.
It's huge. So to give you an example of the coastline, every 200 metres, they have to have a lifeguard.
Goodness me.
Every 200 metres. They've got a lifeguard with a tower, all the equipment. There might be 2 or 3 members of staff on, because depending on what beach they're on and how busy the beach is, they might have 2 or 3. So, for example, Eid, and if you go down to Kite Beach, they might see 3,000 people coming onto that beach in one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they would have whatever number of lifeguards that they would see that as being capacity. The thing that's now starting to emerge, and I mentioned it earlier on, that our facility's got a lagoon. There's some facilities that instead of they will have swimming pools, but they'll also have lagoons within the estate. There's one facility that's got a 7-kilometre lagoon inside the estate or compound. At the moment, what the government are saying is that needs to be managed every 50 metres, which financially puts a lot of pressure on the company that's created that facility. So we're looking at how can we work around that so that we can man the facility in a way that nobody's jeopardised when they enter the water. So the other side of our company is that we provide AI, drowning detection cameras that can help supervise an area while a lifeguard is maybe manning and looking after. It might be that somebody's inquiring about something. So it's not that they're turning their back on, but we're just giving them an extra set of eyes.
Yeah. Want to double back to the granules now, and you talked about a few things earlier on, which I'm really fascinated to dive into, and that is there are two cultural elements. So you talked about coffee for yourself being a whole lot more than just a drink. You talked about it being a ritual. You talked about it being something that like it's your medicine almost. So I'd love you to go into that in a little bit more detail. Why is it so important for you? And then talk to me about the culture in Dubai and what are the big highlights for you in terms of the coffee scene.
Wow. Okay. I think over the years, having run 3 businesses, and I think my blood pressure was very, very high for most of that time. If it's not doing that type of volume of work and running all the things that we have, and then obviously you've got all the additional pressures of paying people and looking after your own family, etc. I find that there's almost a release of pressure, because what I do is every morning I get up 1 hour before I start my day, and that hour is making the coffee and then sitting down for 15-20 minutes and just enjoying the taste notes, the texture, the moment, the piece. And what I do is I do have music on, but I select the type of music. So I might have, the moment I'm listening to quite a lot of soul and blue, which I've not really done for a long time. But I listen to quite a lot of folk music. And I think between the connection to music, so I've got a very large affinity to music. I love music, and I think it's very much to the passion of life and very much to the passion of coffee that there's a connection to something in that music that I have with the moment in time that I'm enjoying that coffee. And I do, it's quite strange. At the moment I've got an Ethiopian, which is really funky because it's got cranberry, pomegranate, I can't remember all the flavours that I've got in it. But I tend to listen to something that's a bit more vibrant. Whereas if I'm having something like the Colombian that I had this morning, it's got peached iced tea as part of the flavour notes in it. It's a much smoother, more relaxing type. So then I put on throat music.
Yeah. There's a rhythm to it, right?
Yeah, total 100%. And I embrace the moment and I embrace the day, and I set myself up for the day. And I don't get annoyed anymore. I used to get annoyed, I missed my coffee this morning. But I would literally, no matter what time in the morning I have to get up, I'll get up an hour before to make sure I spend that time with myself. And it's myself.
So it's so what I'm picking up, it's ritual, it's meditation, it's rhythm, all of that.
Connection to oneself.
Oof. Do you think that people actually subliminally know this, and that's why the attraction to coffee is so strong?
I think people are in different phases of. I think it's a lifestyle thing, though, as opposed to.
There is a stimulation element to it, but as you rightly put it, there's so much more at so many deeper levels.
It's like the guy I spoke to the weekend, really nice guy. I don't know where he was from. I think maybe Egypt or somewhere like that. And he says, well, I make 24 grams and I do this and I do that. And I think, right, so you're actually just going through the process. You're just, I need a coffee in the morning. That's my coffee. There you go. Thanks very much. And he shares that with his partner. And that's fine. I don't have any problems. Sometimes I let my partner share it with me. But like this morning, she went away to work and I've been in the apartment by myself out of the building. So I've got to enjoy my moment of peace. And I think sometimes, if you think, and I've been in Italy a few times, it's a stop, carry on and go. You're taking that
At the bar, quick shot, yeah.
It's a quick shot in the goal, whereas that lifestyle change. So there's been quite a few things since December 19 that have changed on a personal level, where I have decided to make sure that, one, I slow down, two, I take the time for myself, and three, I enjoy whatever I can out of that time. And I think that's why I've got that routine now.
Wow. You're a passionate man, Robert Hamilton. Holy schmoly. I'm sure there are lots of other aspects. Well, your work is obviously another huge passion, and it sounds like a good coffee and the ritual around coffee is even more important, is even more enjoyable for you than a beer, let's say.
I've not drank in 36 years.
Wow.
Not a single drop of alcohol.
Wow, who needs it?
You don't need it when you've got coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I didn't have a bad thing with the alcohol, but I think the thing that typical people that live in the area that I grew up in, and the people that my father and my brother, they weren't alcoholics by any stretch, but they used alcohol as an escapism, just to, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and it would go away. And I kind of felt as if I was losing out, because at the time that was me going back to when I was 17, and I remember I was doing kickboxing and martial arts at the time, and I would go on the Saturday night and I would go and have a few. And did I get drunk? Yeah, of course I get drunk. Did I enjoy it? No, I didn't. But the thing that stopped me, and this is where I realised I had to stop, was I would drink on the Saturday night and then I couldn't train properly until the Wednesday or the Thursday of the next week because of the toxins. And I just felt then, I didn't stop until I was kind of 22, 23. But I felt as if I'd done what I needed to do with alcohol, didn't want to do it anymore. And I have not. The closest I ever got is I'd done a diploma in 2004, and I was in Highgate in North London. And we went into a restaurant and I asked for a soda water and wine, and the guy gave me a spritzer because he thought I said wine. And if I didn't look at the surface, I wouldn't have identified that it was wine, and I identified it before I touched it. And that's the closest I've ever been to having alcohol in my mouth.
Close shave, yeah. Coffee culture in Dubai, your highlights, and what is your role in the coffee industry now, if any? Apart from being a top-notch consumer.
No, definitely not. The coffee culture in Dubai is insane. I've never experienced anything like the accessibility to all varieties of coffee. Not just varieties, but costs. You can go and buy a really good coffee for a really good, reasonably priced coffee, and you can go and spend a fortune. You'll get every single thing that you want here. You'll have every origin right across the whole world coming into Dubai. There's one place in Sharjah. The guy that owns it, really nice guy called Fred. He basically changed the structure of how coffee was, because up until 2017, really coffee wasn't big in UAE at all. And he's been here as one of the first ones that started bringing it. It was very, very expensive to bring it in, but they managed to sort that out now. But he's the guy that kind of created that new pathway. And now, if you put into Google Maps, you will come across something in the region of 1,100 coffee establishments in Dubai.
1,100 in a population of what, 3 million, is it?
Something like that. Yeah.
Goodness
So
me. Yeah.
what we've got to remember, Nicky, is there's no drinking alcohol here in the way that we would in Europe and the UK and even Ireland. So if you exchange the pub culture to coffee culture, then you've got a comparison to the frequency of coffee shops. But the way that they build coffee shops are quite different from, if you think about the commercial, and we're not going to mention names, but if you think of the commercial brands, they've all got standardization of presentations, livery, and all the other bits and pieces. These coffee shops are unbelievable. I was in a coffee shop not so long ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, that all they sold was bonsai.
Oh.
That's all they did. It was bonsai of a coffee shop. They will create anything. Some of these supercar places that they have down off at Sheikh Zayed, they've got coffee shops in them because they want people to come in and experience the cars, but they want them to stay and have coffee. Cycle shops will have coffee shops in them. So they'll all be kind of commercial based venues, and that is a kind of stop and go kind of coffee. It's bypassing and buying a bike, and I'll want a coffee, or buy a car and I'll have a coffee at the same time. But the speciality coffee scene here is just, I would say, insane.
Yeah, and I think that it sounds to me like that's the difference. It's less coffee chain, more specialty, bespoke coffee experiences.
You get all the brand names. There are only 2 commercial, maybe 3 or 4 other ones that are local to here, but you're international, you'll only get 2 or 3 of them. But in terms of speciality, I can sit any day and type into Google, take me to a coffee shop, and I've got such a selection of coffee shops to go to. Not only selections in terms of what coffees they're offering, but the area and vibrancy of what I would like to go and experience. Bizarrely, a lot of them are within warehouses. But they can convert them. Amazing. It's just, you walk in and you think, this is a warehouse. It's not a warehouse. It's a proper fitted out coffee shop.
With roastery?
With most of them have roasteries.
Yeah.
So this one that's spent the $605,000, they have a floor plan that's probably half the size of a football pitch over 2 floors. They've got a roastery, and then they've got their coffee bar, which I think, from what I heard the other day, it's one of the biggest coffee bars in Dubai. It's a full length of the shop.
Yeah. Is that your favorite haunt, is it?
It's one of the places that I would definitely go to. Depending on what mood I'm in and the intensity of workload, I'll pick a coffee shop that I know that I'm going to get a really good service, quality coffee to my liking, and a good price.
Okay, so let me see if I can just ask a couple of questions around the culture. So here, in a lot of cases, you'll walk into a coffee shop and you'll ask for a cortado or an espresso or a cappuccino or a latte. Where you are, am I hearing that you could walk in and ask for either an espresso or a pour over variety, but you can also request a specific bean from a specific origin? Is that true?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
So the one that spent all the money on the coffee, they have a menu and they have a full selection of beans, and it'll just say pour over, and then it'll go from a Panama Geisha to a Colombian to Ethiopian, Costa Rican. What else have they got? They've got China coffee over here is just insane. It's making a massive big shift forward over here. And So then you pick the bean that you want, and then you tell the waiter what way you want that coffee. So they'll
So you can
ask
ask
you,
for a 10-1 or a 12-1 or an 18-1.
yeah.
Oh,
And it
wow.
just that particular shop, that barista knows me very well, so he knows what kind of coffee I like. So I'll just say, can you ask him to go and make this coffee? Yeah, fine. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go down the stairs and I'll say, it's all about shaking hands and all. And he'll say, what would you like today? I says, will you give me something funky, will you? And just leave it with me, and away he goes, and you come back 2 or 3 minutes later and you've got this amazing coffee.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It's just, it is quite insane what you can ask for here. So the thing that happens here that's quite evident compared to back home is that people talk with their feet. So if you go into a coffee shop and you don't get a good experience, people don't go back. They simply don't go back. So I might go, I've been to some coffee shops and I had a great experience the first time. I went back the next experience and I'm not going to go back.
Yeah. When it comes to the coffee industry, are you content to use coffee for your own personal experiences, or is the coffee industry something that you'd like to be more involved in?
I want to keep it as a passion.
Nice.
I would much prefer to keep it as a passion. The volatility of this industry here, and you can see it's very evident. Once you're here for a while, it's very, very evident. There's a lot of competition here. And like, for example, if you've got somebody, wherever you are in the world, and I'm sure it's very evident quite a lot, in developed countries like Australia and America, Ireland, Scotland, England, wherever we happen to be. And there's a new store opens up, like a new superstore. Everybody flocks to that new superstore. And then you'll get the people who'll stay because they really enjoy the quality of food or whatever the reasons is that they'll stay. That happens here. So what's now happening is that there's so many coffee shops. There's at least 3 or 4 coffee shops open up every single month, at least. So what you're now starting to see is a change in how people are addressing their coffee habits. And one of the very first coffee shops that opened up in Dubai, I would think they're probably starting to struggle. And the reason they're struggling is because of the size of a coffee shop that's right next to them. And then I was talking to a guy who sat at the Best of Rwandan, and he's opened up a roastery right behind that same coffee shop. And it's not because he's doing it on purpose. It's simply because that's the accessible area for him to be able to get access into that space. But that then creates quite a volatile area for that well-established coffee shop.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to go through a bit of a life cycle, doesn't it?
Which things always, and I think what will end up happening, because we were talking about this at the weekend, one of the guys I was with, it's his brother that owns the coffee roastery in Sharjah. He owns probably one of the most prominent coffee shops in Dubai, but it's a bakery. Phenomenal place. They've got 3,000 people that come into that bakery every single day.
Stop it.
3,000 people. And the queue's right out the door. They've even got to a point where, give me your mobile number and we'll send you a text number free for a space.
Wow.
Now, he's opening up 2 new stores. Now, that will put pressure, because I know what the 2 stores are. That'll put pressure on the localized stores. Because, and it's great. He's done an amazing job. And I was actually at their first birthday party just a few months ago. And the guy's done an amazing outfit with amazing coffee. And he's using his brother's coffee that he's getting from Sharjah. So he's got one of the best coffees. He's getting the best oats and the best wheat from Sharjah to make the bakery and stuff. And it's so to try and compete against that's very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's vertically integrated. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so yeah, I was going to say, what a fascinating trip around the world. The UK to Mozambique to Peru to Dubai. It strikes me, Robert, that you're not nearly finished, are you? What's
not
next?
in the strips of mouse. I have no idea what's that.
Let's invoke our Clint Eastwood again, and you're not letting the old man in. So where to next?
I don't know. My plan is to retire from here. And over the Christmas periods, I'm going to head out to Bali because I want to go and experience Indonesian coffee. I was there last year, but we never really get the chance quite in the same way because it's just like, I think the first time you go, you're just, wow, this is amazing. And you're not really focusing on what you want to get out of it. But the plan is maybe I'd like to think about being able to retire in Bali.
Yeah. Wow. And do what? Just chill.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if chill's one of the things that's inherent within me. I don't know if my brain would let that happen, but certainly maybe slow down and maybe do some drowning prevention work, because I know one of the oceanographers that was in Mozambique, she actually lives in Indonesia now, and maybe collaborate with her and do a bit of drowning prevention work, something like that, but nothing too strenuous.
Yeah.
Sorry, just brief. You asked me about my integration into coffee.
Yeah.
I met this really, really nice guy. So they supply most of the coffee machinery to quite a lot of the coffee shops in around the Dubai localized area, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah. And he's asked me to be involved in the home barista show. So we actually just had a meeting yesterday with regards to last night, just to talk about how we're going to move this forward. So we've got we're collaborating with another coffee shop, which is in Al Qaziz, which is outside Dubai, but within the Dubai kind of area, where we're looking to cup by colour.
Oh, wow.
So this is actually, it's very experimental, but it's actually been, I've done a session already with it, and I thought it was really good, and I thought it would be quite nice for the home barista, the home brewer to engage with it. So that, I think, is on the 29th of November. And the thing that's come out of that so far, so we've already done 2 shows, that Andy, who's the guy that's coordinating the whole thing, he brought in the UAE barista champion, Sona, Miriam, and a few other people. But they were more interested in what I did. They were more interested in what the home brewer did, because that's their world of, I've never done this before, can you show me what to do? And it's not that they weren't interested in listening to a champion, but it was that they want to explore. So the idea is that we're going to push this forward, just as a bit of a passion, just in the sidelines. So that is my involvement in the local UE.
Yeah, and I suspect they're more interested in the home brewer because of the stuff that you talked about earlier on, the ritual and the connection and the meditation and all of those deeper side benefits that people get from coffee brewing. So it's amazing. If there was one thing, maybe there's not one thing, but if there was one thing that you would want to achieve in the next 20 years, what would it be? In anything.
What would I want to achieve in 20 years? If I can help reduce drowning.
Ooh.
If I could honestly help reduce drowning, then I would be very happy to help support the growth of that drowning prevention programs. So
that's your mission. That's your why.
Yeah. So the thing that I've said it many times recently, and I say many times, maybe 3 or 4. I've got to an age now and I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. But I've got to an age now where I think it's important for me to be able to pass my message on to somebody else and other people. And if they can get half of what I got out of my life and the enjoyment out of my passion, and if they can get half of that, then I feel as if I've done what I can to help promote somebody else into the industry, whether that's through coffee, whether that's through health and safety, or whether that's through water and drowning prevention, then I feel that I've achieved what I wanted to achieve.
Well, what a fitting way to bring this thrilling yarn to a conclusion. I have a feeling it's a temporary conclusion because there's loads of bits in there that I want to pick up on again at another date. But at the very high level, Robert, it's been a huge pleasure talking to you today. And oh my God, I enjoyed that immensely. It was terrific. And what I really love is the throughout all of your pursuits, you know, lots of people go through life and they just do shit, right? But what you do is that you do shit, but there's a whole lot of deeper meaning to it, and you're a real passionate guy, and I love that you're operating on multiple different levels all the time, and it's just been an education, it's been a travel experience, and it's been just wonderful talking to you. So thank you.
You know, just one thing. I kind of lost my train of thought when I was talking about it. Was 107 million people that went through Dubai last year. Dubai Mall was 107 million people, not 107,000.
So 107 million. Goodness me.
107 million people. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. All right. Good. Let's leave it at that. And I'm gonna leave you to your day. And thanks for joining us, Robert. It's been terrific.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.